Hey, and welcome to Freshly Brewed Comics. I'm Jake.
And I'm Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about Tom King with our good friend... Hi!
Rocco!
So Victoria, what did you read this week?
This week, I read Lennon, The New York Years by David Foenkinos. It was a fictional John Lennon. He was in a psychiatrist's office from the years that he lived in New York City. And each issue was broken up into like sessions with the psychiatrist. There was about 18 sessions, I think. And it was cool. It was all in black and white, and the whole story was all monologued. And it was him talking about like how everybody doesn't like him being with Yoko and how they don't understand like their relationship and stuff like that. And it was like John Lennon post-Beatles. It was very cool.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds it. I want to check that one out.
So Jake, what did you read this week?
This week, I read Nameless by Grant Morrison. It's about this guy. He's nameless. His name's Nameless. They call him Nameless. And he's like an occult guy. He's kind of like a John Constantine like stand-in.
Mm-hmm.
And they hire him to like solve this like weird meteorite. This weird meteorite's coming to kill Earth. It's gonna destroy it all.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yo, there's like weird glyphs on it. It's probably paranormal. Figure it out. And he's like, okay. And he goes up there, and then out of nowhere, it starts jumping between time. It becomes completely non-linear. And in the afterword, Morrison was like, yeah, I didn't want to tell like a story. I just wanted to like write a poem in like comic form. And I was like,
This was Grant Morrison.
Okay.
When did he write that?
this is right after Batman Incorporated.
Oh, so it's like
Oh.
recent.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so
Like
it's
2013.
the same team as Batman Incorporated too. So it's Chris Burnham on art, Nathan Fairbarn on the colors. He's a good colorist. I actually
it
really
looks
like his stuff.
amazing.
So like you can see like the colors are pretty poppin'.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. I love a good colorist.
So Rocco, what did you read this week?
Alright, hold on. This past week, I read Batman Volume 1 by Grant Morrison.
What a classic.
It is, honestly, so...
I didn't get the Grant Morrison memo this week, guys.
I guess not.
Batman and Robin or something like that.
This whole book is a 10. It's honestly, like, everything about this book, Alright, so it's meant for people that know a lot about Batman, so you could really get the full effect. You can know nothing about Batman and love every second of this book. Like, so much happens, but he actually, like, for a Grant Morrison book, he actually explains himself for the most.
Yeah.
Like, there's very little that doesn't go explained. Like, you can actually understand what's happening. The art, it switches artists every few issues, but, like, this is one of the few books
They're
I
all
actually...
great artists.
Yeah, it didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Like, usually I get really mad about it, because, like, it could go from, like, a 10 out of 10 art to, like, a 3. All the art is great in this. The only complaint I had about it was... No, I'm not going to talk about that. There's two complaints. There's one really bad issue in this that I'm not even going to talk about. It's a book issue. Just skip it.
It's terrible.
It's bad. But no, the only actual, real complaint I had about it was how Morrison writes Talia al Ghul is, like, very much... He turned her from, like, more of a complex character to just a psychopath that wants to blow everyone up all the time. So it worked for the story he was telling, but as like a Talia character, it wasn't written very
And
well.
I'd say that's weird because I'd say this is the defining Talia run.
Yeah, well, that's
She comes.
she literally
spoilers
just
for
wants to
run,
kill everyone all the
she-
time.
She's like the main antagonist.
Yeah, no, she's the main attack. That's why it works for the story, but as like writing Talia, she's just kind of a psychopath. So it was a little weird, but I didn't mind it too much. Everyone else, he really gets Batman, Alfred, Tim, Dick, like all of them are written so well. I mean, he wrote Damian, so obviously Damian's written well. But yeah, so definitely check it out. It's amazing.
This week's Creator Spotlight is on Tom King. Yay. Tom King is one of the hottest writers for DC as of right now, with current works such as the Batman Rebirth series, along with Mr. Miracle, which he just finished up with Mitch Gerads.
Not that long ago. And it was fantastic.
10 out of 10, both of them.
All of us had the pleasure of meeting Tom King once or twice in our lives. Jake and I met him at 2 separate Comic-Cons, and then Rocco and Jake and friends met them at Barnes & Noble in New York City for the Mr. Miracle premiere.
What a great guy.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy.
Insert our pictures with him here.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. He's written a lot of great things. His first book we're going to be talking about today is actually his first comic book he ever wrote, which was Sheriff of Babylon, with art by Mitch Gerads, who would go on to become his creative collaborator on quite a few things, including some Batman issues,
Mr. Miracle,
some Heroes in Crisis.
Heroes in Crisis issues.
But this book, it was the first time they worked together. He chose Mitch Gerads because of his accuracy of drawing an Arabic or like an Iraqi teacup.
Oh yes, that's
So
a really cool story.
he was like, because he sent out the script to a bunch of artists, and Mitch was the only one that drew it accurately.
Mitch Jones,
Yeah.
great artist.
Fantastic artist.
Fantastic beard as well.
Yeah,
to go along with the art.
This book is very personal for Tom, though. It's about his, loosely based off his time in Iraq in 2004. And this book just highlights a post-Saddam Hussein Iraq. It's a pretty great read. Next up is the most underrated book in his entire bookography. Is that
Bibliography.
bookography? And it's Omega Men with art by Barnaby Bagenda, who, fun fact, Tom King found on DeviantArt.
Whoa, that's
He
insane.
found this artist on DeviantArt, and I think this is
The art's fantastic, honestly.
this is my second favorite Tom King book after Omega Men. This is Omega Men after Mr. Miracle, which Mr. Miracle's perfect. This book is near perfection in my opinion.
Now, was this the first time he experimented with like the 9-panel grids?
Yes.
At some point.
Yes, it is.
Right?
This is Tom King's first
And
foyer into the
9-panel grids.
which he has
Become
become
very,
known for.
Yes.
very popular in his later works.
This book has beautiful, kind of like semi-realistic art by Barnaby Bagenda. The characters in this book are really well written. It's Kyle Rayner, my favorite Green Lantern, who was the Green Lantern of the 90s, third person to take up
Post
the mantle.
Green Lantern, post Hal going
Go
AWOL.
But this book does have my favorite Tom King scenes in it. This and Mr. Miracle. It's so fantastic. It's a space opera. It's got all the 9-panel grids. Each issue ends with a quote too, similar to Mr. Miracle, how each Mr. Miracle issue ends with a Kirby quote.
Right.
Each one ends with like a philosophical quote, like it's Watchmen. And all the 9-panel grids, like there's an issue in here where it's peak escalation for the plot, like it's the rising action, and it starts with a splash page, and then 2 panels, then 3 panels, then 4 panels.
I love
Each
that.
page adds
That's
a panel.
awesome.
That's awesome.
And it's my favorite thing Tom
That's
King's
so
written,
cool.
was that interaction right there. It's such a great book, and it's so underrated, and I just think everything about this book is amazing.
Next up is Vision, with art by Gabriel H. Walta. This book is about Vision living in the suburbs with a robotic family that he's created all on his own, and they face what we're gonna call robo-racism within their little suburban town, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's the book that put him on the map.
And it's the book that got me into comics mainly.
Yeah, it got him noticed. So this book is the reason why he only writes 12. Well, he doesn't only write 12-issue maxi series, but he's known for his 12-issue maxi series
Right.
because of this, because of Sheriff, because of Omega Men.
And Mr. Miracle now.
And Mr. Miracle. The art's really good. It's like dark and gritty, and it sets the tone really for like the whole aesthetic of like this, they're this happy family in like a suburban town, and it almost has like that 50s kind of aesthetic to it, like the town that they live in.
The covers definitely do.
Oh yeah, so it feels like you feel that disconnect. You know, it's almost like that town in the Indiana Jones movie that they bomb. When you're like, this town looks perfect.
Nuketown.
Yeah, it's like Nuketown, yeah.
Yeah, it does have a perfect like American dream
Exactly, yeah.
vibe to it. It's pretty great, and as you can see from the cover, it's got the Vision family tree, which family is a very important theme in this story.
Right, it's all about family.
All about family.
Next is Batman Rebirth, which is currently at issue like 68?
Something
like that. At the time of recording, I don't know.
Almost
But
over. It's almost
He
over.
just finished the dream sequence, which was, I'm gonna get to it. So, Batman Rebirth, I have been reading since it started in 2016. He makes Kite Man one of the best Batman characters out of nowhere. No one saw it coming. But you go on from that, and Batman and Catwoman start dating, and it turns into this super wholesome, amazing read, and it leads to the wedding, which was very controversial.
This is the main reason why I wanted to have Rocco on the show. He's the only person I've ever heard that enjoyed the nightmares.
The nightmares are done so well. Listen, this is one I got signed by Tom King, because it's my favorite single issue in the run. It's one of the, I think it's the second dream sequence issue, maybe the first, where the whole issue is just Batman getting beat up by Professor Pig, and you don't know why.
Yeah, he made me read this one.
It was so good. In the context, you would like it. Alright.
No, it was okay. I like it.
Also, Mitch did the art, so that helps too. He's getting beat the entire time, and then spoiler alert again, but I want to explain why it's so good. No, explain why it's so good is he's like hung up, right, getting beaten, and he's trying to escape and he can't, and then Professor Pig slowly turns into Damien, which shows Bruce's fear that Damien is still a killer, and it's so cool, and people I feel aren't giving it a fair shot because they're just oh wow, he did this whole arc about Batwoman and Catwoman getting married and they didn't, now it's stupid. It's but he's actually writing a story he's had in mind, and I don't think people are really giving it the time to actually read the issues and dissect them in a good way, because it's really good.
Last but not least, we have all of our favorite Tom King works, except I don't know if
no, it's my favorite. It's
Mr. Miracle, which is
something else.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Most people
So good.
agree that it's a 10, because it's just a fantastic story.
We both have the Barnes & Noble exclusive.
Oh, I also have the
versions.
Barnes & Noble
He also has
exclusive.
it.
It's just not. I don't have it here.
We have this.
Mine is signed.
When
at
they went
home.
and met our two very good friends,
Yeah,
Tom King and Mitch Gerads,
I got
at
it
Barnes
all.
& Noble.
It was worth it.
Totally worth it.
All right, so
Where
Mr.
to
Miracle.
begin?
So this book kind of it does what Matt Fraction did for Hawkeye, but for Mr. Miracle and the New Gods, where he takes this established character and he gives it a new tone and a new
Totally
feeling.
new tone.
And because I know you've read Have you read Mr.
I've
Miracle by
read
Kirby?
the first 12 issues, so I'm almost.
That's the
yeah,
good
the
stuff.
good. I've read most of it.
And then I know you have it.
I have it. I didn't really crack it open that much because I was too busy reading this.
They're both fantastic.
Yeah, the original one's very good, but he's a different character, honestly.
Completely different character. This definitely does Fraction, Hawkeye, Mr. Miracle.
Personally, I like this version of Scott a lot more than Jack Kirby's.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to disagree. But this is a perfect book.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I really do think I could write an annotated version of this because there are so many obscure Kirby references in this book.
Yep. Like the whole page with him
and
Funky
Flash
Funky
Man.
Flash hanging up the birthday decorations. He's
Yeah.
like, this is an allegory for Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And I'm like, it is?
It's there's that whole section in the book where they talk about where Funky's babysitting. Spoilers. Scott and Barta's kid, who is named Jacob after Jack Kirby, because his birth name's Jacob.
Right. Unlike your birth name, which is just Jake.
Just Jake. And they create a comic together, Funky Flashman, who's a stand-in for Stan Lee, and always has been, even in the original Kirby.
Oh, you could. It's even easier to see in the original. It's pretty easy to see in
it's a
both.
lot easier in this one, I think.
It's really easy in both. He even says Excelsior in this, doesn't he?
Several times. But yeah. So they create this this comic, which is literally just the Silver Surfer, Galactus, and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Drawn by Tom King. That part.
Art.
It's there's a lot of 9-panel grids in this. I'm pretty sure they only break it twice. With the first issue and the 11th issue, they break it with the splash page.
The 9-panel grids are just so great too.
It's
fantastic.
fantastic.
It gets a little experimental in the
issue,
one issue where
they invade Apocalypse.
Yep.
Or New Genesis. They invade New Genesis.
That's what it is. When they're in the elevator, or not the elevator. Is it an elevator? When they're in the
They
thing?
go through like a shaft.
Yeah, and the shaft is shrinking, and like the panels shrink themselves, and it's fantastic.
When I was reading this monthly, I thought each issue was pretty standalone. I thought, personally, but then reading it in trade, I was like, wow, they actually do connect.
So I jumped on the singles. Issue 10 had just come out. And the reason I actually jumped on it was because the cover was all black with just Darkseid outline, and I just thought it looked so cool. I was like, all right, I just gotta read this whole series, I guess. So I went online, I bought issues 1 through 9, I bought 10 there at the comic book shop, and I just finished all of it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is one of the best things I've ever read in my entire life.
Yeah, it's definitely in my top 10 all time.
Completely.
I actually have that Darkseid cover signed.
Yeah,
by,
I see that. That's what made me remember it.
Signed by Nick Darrington, the cover artist, who does the main covers for this. And Nick Darrington is, he's always been one of my favorite artists in the whole industry.
He's fantastic.
I love
We've met
Nick
him
Darrington.
twice.
He's a great guy.
He's
he drew
so
for me
nice.
twice. I have 2 Nick Darrington sketches.
Dealing with like abusive relationships with Mr. Miracle and
Granny
Goodness is just done so well. Everything, I don't know, it deals with so many issues that...
I mean, Scott and Barda is one of the most well-written
yeah.
comic book couples
totally.
in
They're so amazing together.
They're it just feels so real.
Even
like they're real. Like
even Darkseid, he's very different than usual, but I really love how he's written too. It's really just Orion.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things Tom said, he based his Darkseid off of Kirby's Darkseid, but this is way more of a Morrison Darkseid.
Yeah, which I like Morrison Darkseid.
Morrison's Darkseid is very much a a figure in the background. He's a force of evil. He's just like a force of nature, pretty much. Force of evil. He's evil incarnate. While Kirby's is more of a dictator, Hitler stand-in.
Yeah, definitely Hitler stand-in.
Yeah, literally a Hitler stand-in.
Everyone should read all of these books that we're talking about, but definitely Mr. Miracle.
Yeah, if you had to pick one, if I had to pick one for someone to read, it's definitely got to be Mr. Miracle.
Of course.
If they had a long time, I'd say Batman, but if they just wanted one series, read Mr.
They needed
Miracle.
just a short thing.
Just one thing they could read in one night, Mr. Miracle.
This is it.
It's literally perfect.
Some of the issues in this I could literally read in like 2 minutes.
Oh yeah,
Like I think it's the 3rd issue.
There's some Tom King. Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, a lot of these issues, how they read, it reads exactly like the Nightmare issues in Batman. And I think that's why I liked it so much.
Back to Batman.
No, I'm just saying that how he writes some of these issues, like the ones you read in 2 minutes, are like those are the Nightmare issues are written like that, where you read it in 2 minutes.
That's kind of cool.
So that's all I want to say about Batman again. But read this. This is better than Batman, but Batman's great too.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Freshly Brewed Comics, the show where we drink coffee and talk about our favorite books.
And next week, we're going to be talking about some underappreciated books. And we'd also like to thank Rocco for being on the show this week.
Thank you guys. Yay.
He's a great guy, and hopefully we'll have him on again eventually.
I would love to be on again.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. So,
What did you read this week, Jake?
so this week.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Freshly Brewed Comics, the show where we talk about our favorite books and drink. What?
Hey, and welcome to Freshly Brewed Comics. I'm Jake,
And I'm Victoria.
and today we're going to be talking about Tom King with our good friend.
Hi.
Rocco!
Hello.